That's true.
Yeah.
How about you, Iro?
Well, I've never been to the Philippines, and I think all my where I gathered the image I had before I started like working with you and English, where I was from working with Filipino chefs, and I noticed they play a lot of with balance and texture, so that's all I could assume. But the flavor profile kind of surprised me. I didn't see that.
Okay, so
It's much different.
Did you find it a little bit closer to our Thai cousins? Like, is it like on your narration, Kat? It's the perception is that Filipino food is really closer to more of like Thai, Southeast Asian, so very hot and coconut tea, and maybe lemongrass would come into your mind. They didn't actually become like that.
No, I thought Filipino food was completely different.
Right, right.
You do use chili and lemongrass,
Yeah.
but like in a completely different way.
That's
like
true.
from my perception.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's definitely different. You use like a lot of salty and sweet flavors, which I love, and like you said, balance.
Yeah,
which is
you find it more balanced.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So did you find it that it was actually more friendly, especially to our Finnish friends who are watching right now? Yeah, okay. The Filipino,
yeah. And it's definitely like surprising. It's nothing that you would imagine.
Right.
And that's what I know, like a lot of customers have problems as well when they come to Pobre or Paisano this time, where they're just not quite sure what to expect.
Right.
And it's a very positive experience.
Right. Okay.
And I think it's Filipino food is in many ways like different. That's a comment we hear a lot, that this is different and it's really exotic, and you can't quite pinpoint like where all the different like profiles and flavors come from. But I think that's something people also appreciate.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why we love it.
Yes, that's true. So for those of you who watching who haven't even really tried Filipino food, so basically the initial perception about Filipino food is that it's extremely salty or extremely sweet or extremely sour. It's more often than not, going through the ranges of taste that you would have, it would almost always be on the level of always too much. And there's actually a reason for that, and I'm sure you know this by now, but it's primarily because our diet is centered around rice.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So yeah, rice is like, it's never really a meal without rice. I know that here in Finland you also consume rice, but it's more of like a poorer thing. But I'm sure currently in this age, it's more of like a staple thing already, like other than bread. But it's more of like a bread country. But in the Philippines, bread would be eaten for a snack, whereas rice is the determinant if it's actually a meal. And that's the reason why many of the dishes that we have in the Philippines are almost always accompanied by something strongly flavored. Either be a reduction of soy sauce or fish sauce, or like an extremely rich curry type thing based on coconut cream, and that's primarily because we eat it always with rice. So that's one of the primary considerations why you will be seeing a lot of too intense things going on, because there will be the rice balances it out. So if it's too bland,
intense in a great way.
Intense in a great way. That's a great word. That's a great combo word for putting it. Thanks, Kat.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And also in the Filipino food, there's plenty of dips. So if sometimes, because in the Philippines you have this culture of you are always free to adjust the food on your table. Very much unlike the Western culture of like eating what you are served with.
Right.
So you're allowed in the Philippines, this is very true for every household, and really every household has their own thing going on. If they like it more spicy, they like it more salty or funky. In the case of fish sauce, they would add that. So we have this culture of, we call it sausawan. So it's really literally something to dip onto. So every person is entitled to do that. It's like one of your basic human rights to make your own dip.
But I also love the fact that it's also like voluntary. You don't have to.
You don't have to, definitely. Yeah, because even if the food itself actually tastes good as well, others just really want that extra zing from the calamansi or extra maybe from the fish sauce that they would mix onto their rice. Okay, so now we go to the actual introduction or tasting of the items.
All right.
So we start with the sour stuff. Are you anxious?
Yeah. We've been looking at this for a minute now. It's getting hard. Like Venus.
Right. So, first thing, we love sour ingredients in the Philippines, like sour. Sure.
So you can lead the way.
Okay. So I'm sure everybody knows etika, so vinegar. But I find many Filipinos, if not all Filipinos, find that the etika here in Finland is actually on the stronger and acidic type.
Okay.
And because I think for the most part, if you check out the labels of the Finnish vinegars, it would almost always be for pickling.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In the Philippines, we actually have a myriad of vinegars, ranging from fruit vinegar, so pineapple, mango vinegar, etc., and down to the basic one. So sugar cane vinegar, which is here. So it is somewhat dark, very much like her balsamic, I would say, but not the reduced version. I'm sure Italians would kill me for it, for likening it to balsamic. Yeah, but it's made out of sugar cane, and it's brownish in color due to a certain bark that they add during the fermentation process, so it colors and deepens the flavor. So it's actually on the sweeter note of things. And then we have this just regular sugar cane without the added bark, which is a regular daily vinegar for Filipinos. And then there are others like from rice vinegar, which I'm sure many of you can find in the local stores as well. But the bottom line is the way Filipinos use vinegar is somewhat more different than many other countries. Why? Because we cook off vinegar. We cook with vinegar and we cook it off, meaning the best example would be trying to sniff off raw vinegar from a bottle. And the most common thing that would happen is that you choke on it, right? It's like if you do that, yeah, it's like
I was trying to do it for the can.
Yeah, especially well, this is very mild. But if you try, if you happen to have a finished vinegar at your home, try to sniff it out of the bottle, and you would clearly, like, if you could compare it to the Filipino vinegars, the finished vinegars, or I think majority of the vinegars here from the West are more on from very acidic tone.
Yeah.
Yep. No,
So
for sure.
yeah, definitely. But Filipino vinegars are slightly less acidic, ranging from 3 to 5% acidity only. And then since we cook with it, once we like to reduce it a little bit, so then the rawness will be gone. And that's why there will be some dishes that you've tried maybe in Pobre or Paisano that you would notice, oh, there's that something sour but not quite sour. There's something in it that makes you smile a little, like, what's that flavor? It's probably the cooked vinegar, not raw vinegar. Because even Filipinos have a word for it, like when they try dishes, they would say that, oh, maybe this dish was not cooked enough. And it's such a weird concept for non-Filipinos to cook vinegar.
And I love acidity in dishes.
Yes, especially for the kinilaw. Those are the more common ones. Yeah, kinilaw. So aside from vinegars, we love our citrus fruits.
Oh, that we've noticed.
Yes.
So do I.
Yes.
Definitely noticed.
Yes. So this is what you'll be trying today. So I'll put this on the side.
Okay.
Yes. So we have calamansi. So I'm not sure. You can actually come in closer now. So this is calamansi. Well, that's the how calamansi looks like. So it's sort of like an inch or two in terms of diameter of a citrus fruit, kind of like a cross between mandarin and clementines, something but definitely more floral. Like there would be regions in the Philippines allocated for growing calamansi based on the variety of the calamansi, and it affects the floralness of the citrus fruit. So what we have here is just the juice, because we cannot have it imported here in Finland, unfortunately. The fruit itself.
Oh, so you can't get the fruit here?
You cannot. However, I've seen one time in IKEA, but those are not IKEA.
Oh,
IKEA,
like
yeah.
still on the tree?
Yeah, but those are more for like decorative stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I've met some friends who've actually used it on food. It's very different. It's too sweet. Well, it's very acidic, but the real calamansi is sort of like super sour. It's like mouth puckering. It's like it can cook a raw fish.
I had a calamansi juice every day in the Philippines. It was the best thing.
It was.
It looks like a tiny lime.
Yes, exactly. It's green. The ones that you can see in IKEA would be like bright orange color. So those would seem to be too ripe already for Philippines. So yes.
Hangover cure.
Oh yeah, I would agree to that.
Juice.
Yeah, with some more gin.
Yeah.
You know, cats tips for life.
Yeah. Speaking of hangover,
Chin chin.
All right.
Yes, this is right.
Thank you.
oh, we're going in for a wine break.
Yes, we are.
I mean,
Cheers.
it is the first of the day, so.
Yes, yes.
Okay, that being said, should we dive in?
Yes, dive in.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm very
Yeah, so
excited.
this is just pure
I was
calamansi.
told that I'm gonna taste stuff, so I really want to taste
And
it.
I'm
Yeah.
going in before you.
Ooh, that's a lot.
That was quite a lot.
Okay, so it is super sour.
Super sour.
I'm gonna give you that.
Yeah,
Definitely.
But I love sour.
yeah.
But I don't think the aftertaste is so soury as in lemon. It's
Right.
much more a softer cut.
Yeah.
But
in
they're
my
like,
opinion.
they're like in your face.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's
That's-
Sourness hits
definitely
you straight
sour.
away.
I don't think you're supposed to spoon this just like that.
I don't think so either, but I will.
No.
No.
The calamansi juice, you would also, aside from what Kat said, that they would actually use it for drinks in the Philippines, like mix it with sugar, some ice, and maybe some gin if you're feeling like it. That's the best way to go.
Might be.
But I was mentioning earlier about sausawan culture, so something to dip in. So calamansi would go something with some other things that we will be introducing you to later on, but which you probably already know, like soy sauce and fish sauce. So it would be something that would go well with meats or even vegetables.
Yeah.
But most of all, calamansi juice is very much known to be used in marinades.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you can get your hands on calamansi juice, normally these ones are sold in the frozen section. I'm afraid not all markets will have this, but
Bigger ones?
you might want to try the bigger ones
Right.
if they would have, or your closest Asian store. They would probably sell this frozen or probably in a bottle, not unlike this one, in a concentrated form. But the thing that you would want to watch out there is the sugar content. It might actually be a concentrate for a beverage.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
Yes,
so
which
the
you were
sugar is
mentioning.
already added in.
Yes,
My-
otherwise, if you get to have your hands on those, then most Filipino marinades are anyway sweetened with sugar, so you don't have to add sugar if you get your
Okay.
hands on the syrup
Oh,
thing.
that makes sense.
So just marinate. I'm not sure what kind of marinade you want to do here in Finland when you cook your meat. I think you have peppers and garlic and stuff. Try adding a teaspoon or a tablespoon of calamansi and it adds that acidity.
That's what I'm missing from my marinades.
Yeah.
Because I'm quite boring with mine.
Yes, this
I
gives
go-
the zing,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I go for the basic, like, salty kind of marinade.
Yeah,
But I do
yeah.
give it, like, a
Yeah,
zing as well.
but because sometimes people think that adding vinegar would be, first it would cook the protein,
Yeah,
and then
right.
another one it would be weirdly sour. So calamansi, since it's a fruit and it's floral and very fragrant, this could actually be the solution for that.
I'm going to be
Yeah.
stealing this.
Yes,
So,
we'll give it out.
Future use.
yeah.
Yes.
All right.
All right, so that's calamansi for you. I think it's one of all the things that we'll be trying today, this is one of those must-have, like very quintessentially Filipino.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
I'm not sure if
Definitely.
our cousin Thais and Viets, they do have calamansi, but they don't use calamansi in the way that Filipinos do because we
Right.
use it from curing fish, from seasoning meats, from marinating chicken, from seasoning vegetables, and making drinks.
Yeah.
So it's like
So it's everywhere.
our lives revolve on
And
it.
it's
Yeah.
super visible. I've
It is.
never seen Calamansi in any other country
Right.
I've been to, but I have, like, immediately
That's-
noticed it in the Philippines.
That's true. Oh, someone there is telling us, yes, you have it in Vietnam. Yes, I'm sure
Oh,
you have it
yeah,
in
but I
Vietnam.
haven't been to Vietnam
Yeah,
yet.
yeah. So
I'd
maybe
love
we'll
to
go
go.
there soon. Okay, let's proceed because we have a ton of ingredients coming
Okay.
later. So next is tamarind of our list. So next is tamarind. So what we have here is actually a puree type. But if you go to your local store, yeah,
This makes my favorite dish.
is it?
Sinigang?
Sinigang,
Yeah.
yes.
Sinigang?
Yeah.
Me
Yes.
too.
I live
Me
for
too.
Vinegar.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So this, I could mix it and just show you that this particular bottled version that we have here is more of like something pasty. So you can actually add it to marinades. But they were
Oh.
mentioning earlier that this is actually the basic ingredient profile of one of the Filipino national dishes, or like the more common for Filipinos and non-Filipinos alike. So the dish is called sinigang. So it's basically a soup dish. It can be beef, pork, seafood,
Yes,
definitely, and even chicken in some areas, although they call it differently.
Okay.
So they just mix it with the broth of the stock, whatever protein it may be, then they season it with some salt or fish sauce. But, yes, tamarind.
Are we tasting this?
We are tasting this.
Okay.
But there are other packaging of this as well. It can be sold as like block in your Asian store. So for that one, you will just have to dissolve it well in some warm water. You can try it now.
I'm quite actually afraid of trying
Yeah.
something
Try it,
like
yeah,
this.
yeah.
It's quite hard.
Ooh, sour.
Give it a chance.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, this came from.
Frick! I would not recommend having it just like that.
Yeah.
Not meant to be eaten like this.
Yeah, because this is pure and just the puree.
I want to rip my tongue out my face right now.
But it is sour.
It was-
It is very sour.
It was super sour.
Yeah, that's why a
But
tablespoon
it was
or
like
two.
vinegary sour.
Yeah.
It was in like lemon
Yes,
sour.
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
It's not lemon sour.
Right.
It's like vinegar sour.
Because this one will mix a tablespoon or two
Yeah.
in the full pot of broth. So it depends. So every
So that's
Filipino.
gonna last you.
Yeah, that will. Unless of course there are Filipino. I used to be like that. I would probably mix half a bottle of this for like a pot because I really
Yeah,
want
but
it
you're
sour.
wild.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We'll not get into that, but and then going back to that, I believe the Mexican friends have this in their drinks as well. So something like a fermented
Oh, damn.
tamarind drink.
Yeah.
We do not, unfortunately, have that in the Philippines, but we can always
That's
export.
something that we should do in Paisano though.
Probably, yes.
Experiment.
Yes. I will put this in the back because we are trying two kinds of vinegar that they did here. Some of our chef friends here in Paisano did.
Oh, that's exciting.
They actually did sort of like an infusion of two kinds of vinegars.
So what's in there?
So these are called they're called in parts of the Philippines sinama. So these are vinegar. So imagine your regular etika, the finished vinegars that you have in the market, and you just cut in your favorite aromatics and steep it inside the bottle.
You show them it's gorgeous.
Yes.
Come curl up the century.
Yeah. So
I thought you were gonna down it. I was like,
Ooh,
damn.
no. I would not even try. So this one it's basically the white vinegar that I showed you earlier, this one. And then it started with some chilies, garlic, and onion,
She's still not popcorn.
and then seasoned with some salt. This by itself is already a dip, especially for fried dishes. So this would really go well with maybe PFC or
That's what I was
crispy
thinking,
pork.
Ty.
Yes,
Fried chicken.
PFC for the win. And this
This is Pobre fried chicken.
Pobre fried chicken,
Yes.
just to clear that up.
Can I
Yeah.
tell you my favorite customer story?
What? Yes, tell
Right.
us.
Go for it.
During lunchtime in Pobre and in Paisano, we served Pobre fried chicken.
Yeah,
And I went to take it out to a table where a woman and a man were sitting together.
right.
And I put it down on the table and I was like, fried chicken, there you go, enjoy your food. And the woman looked at me and she went, fried chicken!
Excited.
Wow,
That
that
was
is extra.
my favorite deal
Yeah,
ever.
yeah, that's my favorite.
I
now.
probably laughed for like 10 minutes and then had to go away. Yeah.
All right.
So the only difference is that I think this one has added soy to it,
Oh.
so it's got more salinity to it. But nonetheless, it's got, if I can see through the abyss of darkness, there's chili, garlic, and onions. Those are the three basic ones, which we will tackle on later
So
on.
chili, garlic, and onion?
Yes.
Okay.
Chili, garlic, and onion. So yes, you can try this too. So basically, the other one is not quite clear, but still white, and then the other one is on the darker hue. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Which one?
So let's try first the white, the clear one. Ooh, yes.
It's vinegar.
It's vinegar, yes.
Yes.
Yes, but did
But it's
you?
spicy.
It is spicy, and it's
Yeah,
like
it is
yeah,
spicy.
yeah. You're turning red.
I feel like my reactions are really hardcore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
I wasn't expecting it to be
You
that
can definitely
hardcore.
feel the chili, but it's not the only thing you taste.
No, the first
Exactly.
thing is the like sourness.
Yeah.
And the second thing is the
The
chili
heat,
that
yeah.
you.
Yeah, because these
Like that.
two, yeah, you can try the other one, but
Yeah.
because these two are normally tried or eaten with deep fried food, so fatty foods, rich ones.
Oh, I love that one. That one tastes like soy.
Yeah. So this is a combination of soy and vinegar, which would go well also with your deep fried stuff, but can also definitely, like if you're vegan and stuff like that, which we all should try for a day or two, because it's just, you're in. If you have these kind of condiments, along with the chili garlic or the fermented red chilies that we have, these are the things that could actually enliven up your vegetable game. Like eat it with broccoli. Definitely steam vegetables, or just pour over your rice, or I don't know if you'd like it over pasta, but something like really bland, or even eggs. I actually do that also, like season it with a little bit of vinegar and soy.
To be honest, it's a really easy spice up because once you've done it, you got it, and then you can just pour it through everything. And then that's like the really great part about it.
Exactly. Once you make it for like probably 30 minutes for cutting, unless of course you have Roboco in your fancy, like and then it's done, and then put it inside the bottle.
Which we for sure don't.
Exactly, we do not. Yeah. And the cool thing about it is that the more it sits on the counter in room temp, well, it's relatively cooler here in Finland.
Yeah.
The longer that you do it like that, the flavors mellow down. So like you won't be having that much of a punch from the garlic or the onions or the chili.
Right.
So this
they
too.
settle when they stand. I thought they'd be like more intense after a while.
No, the vinegar itself, but it's sort of like the flavors marry, and that's true for most intensely flavored stuff.
Yeah.
Like once because once you make it on the day itself, you would taste the thing, but almost always separately. But once it sits down, the flavor would be almost unidentifiable because it would be like separate. It's like melded into one flavor.
Yes, that's holistic.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
So I think we are done with sour stuff.
Just like a side note, this is a great idea because I'm so boring when I make food myself.
Right.
And like I do like use loads of vegetables, but I always like keep them super like clean flavored.
Yeah, just
And
salt
it'd be
and
like,
pepper.
yeah, exactly.
This would be like a
It'd be
good
super
one.
like good to like. The only thing that I occasionally do is throw some oyster sauce over.
Right.
That's when I go wild.
And using your vinegar to marinate meats, whatever it is, beef, pork, chicken, seafood, we do that. Combine it with the aromatics that we'll be introducing later on. That will be very, very yum, 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 yum.
All right. What's next?
Yum, yum,
Yum, yum.
Next. We go to the salty stuff because Filipinos like it salty because we like it sour. So it's like combination of everything. If you have something salty, if you attend a Filipino party and you have this something very salty that's presented to you, more often than not.
Side note?
Yeah.
We have very few people, but only our cameraman who's behind the camera. You're allowed to breathe. It's okay. Smile a little, wave a little.
Yeah.
You know, they know you're there.
Definitely.
It's fine. You don't have to be quiet.
But also, I had another side note. Yeah, that was like the best thing about the Filipino culture is when you walk into like a place with Filipinos.
Yeah.
They don't like say hi, how are you? They say hi, are you hungry?
That is good. That is really
And that is
really
like,
good thing you can.
every single time I walk into a room with you guys, it's like, hi Kat, you hungry? And like the first thing they'll do is like put some food in front of me and be like, eat honey.
That is so true.
And then like I chose my job wisely.
That's true.
Because I love eating.
Yeah, that is always about your state, your hunger. Like, kamusta ka? So it's like asking how are you, and then almost always to be followed by have you eaten yet?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's one of those things that many people like about Filipinos.
And as a Finnish person, to start off, I was quite shy. Because I was like, no, it's okay, don't make me a little bit.
Oh yeah.
But then after a while, I was like, yes, I'm hungry.
I'm always hungry.
Because I realized that whether I say yes or no, you're still going to make me food.
Right, that's true. That's true. There's always, even if you do say no, there's always going to be food inside, especially if you work in a Filipino reigned kitchen here in Helsinki or anywhere. There will always be food. Just ask your Filipino guy, like there will be probably sisig. If it's your lucky day, sisig there. Or maybe some dumplings.
Or maybe some sinigang.
Yes. Okay, moving on. So Filipino saltiness, aside from your basic salt, which definitely we're not going to be introducing now. I can smell it now. I just opened the bottle of, I don't know what you call it. It's fish sauce, and definitely the technology for smelling something via screens has not yet been invented. But if you,
imagine like surprise fish sauce.
Alright, imagine. Yeah, I was like, oh, what's that smell? I was just having my piraka. I was like, oh.
Otherwise I have to shower every time I FaceTime.
That's true. That's true.
And that's all I do. Yeah.
Moving on. So there are two basic salty ingredients aside from salt again. So it's fish sauce. So I know this is industrial size because we are currently in a
But
restaurant.
is that oyster sauce or fish sauce?
Well, I want you to pay attention to the brand itself. The brand is Oyster Brand Original.
Oyster.
So
Oh,
we're not
brand oyster.
we're not in
I
any
can
way
see
promoting
that.
that. But even Filipinos get confused because sometimes someone would buy this and think that it's actually oyster
Oyster
sauce. But no,
sauce.
the
It's
oyster
fish
is the
sauce.
brand. So this is fish sauce. So I don't know if you can you actually, no, I'll probably have to pour some so that you can see. So, and it's not really that colorful. The color is like a deep amber color. I know you cannot see it there, so this is probably the wrong bowl.
It's a really strong scent though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, definitely.
I wanna smell it. I'm probably gonna drop it over us.
No, but you can definitely like feel it. Yeah. Somewhat familiar.
That's good. Because I think some fish sauces can be super salty,
Right.
and I don't know.
So just for contrast, well, get a spoonful of it, and then look how amber it is.
If you want.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's all my idea.
Yeah. So I don't want to spill it on anybody's clothes.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
please don't, because I won't be doing any washing.
You really have to think that your aim. Oh yeah. Okay.
So it's really dark amber color.
Right.
It's almost like cognac or brandy, except that it's so much better.
I bet you can't do it in one.
And it's fish sauce.
I can. So it's really dark amber. But again, when you go to your Asian market, there are variations of this. So the salt levels are controlled. I understand that even SK and Aleppo or Prisma, whatever market, has those Kalakas tickets. So this is essentially it, except that many of the fish sauce variety that you get in your actual Asian stores are from like real different kinds of fish, as opposed to one particular kind, because these are very cheap. Like when you buy in Asian stores, and that's because this is basically from several types of fish that are like fermented together, salted together, fermented together, so that you can get this sort of like clear amber liquid, sort of like the essence of the fish acting with all the enzymes and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not sure, but the science of it is so complicated. But the ones that you would have here in the mass-produced, like especially in the western areas, since these are not coastal areas, I mean Helsinki is, but there aren't really much fishing around.
No, exactly.
So I suppose these would be made from 1 to 2 varieties of fish put together. So
Right.
something like that.
Right.
Plus, it's so much cheaper if you go to your Asian store.
Yeah. And also Filipino, I don't know, like Filipino cuisine,
Yeah.
a lot of fermentation.
Yes.
You're
Yes,
right.
that is.
Yeah.
Especially for fruits, vegetables, and primarily the sauce. If the East Asian friends have soy sauce, which we already also have, which we'll go into later.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Southeast Asian region, particularly, specializes on fish ferments.
Yeah.
We actually have 2 kinds today of fish sauce, so we'll clear the misnomer later on. Like, what's the difference, so that you guys can be like cleared off. Like, you don't buy, because the other fish sauce that we'll be introducing later on, could actually, it's more of like a specific type of fish sauce that's appropriate for certain dishes. This one is more of like an all-rounder,
Like a general.
like a general seasoning. So where do you use it? Yes.
Where do you use it?
So where do we use it? As a dip. So mix this with calamansi, which you already know.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
If the taste and flavor of the calamansi and fish sauce are too wild, and it will probably be,
Yeah.
you can always tame it with sugar. So sugar has always been the balancing factor for many Filipino dishes. So this one you can try, and make sure you don't try it a teaspoon, because it just...
All right.
Just
But is this like, you know, the calamansi and the fish sauce and the
Those
sugar, is that something that you put on like the noodles? Or is that different?
You can definitely season sauteed noodles with calamansi. Definitely always calamansi, but there are dishes that would call for either soy sauce or fish sauce. But the extreme people,
Yes.
but very umami, right?
It is, but it's not
Very
too
savory.
salty.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it has some salt in it.
Yeah.
But it's not also too fishy.
Right,
Does that
that's
make
true.
sense?
Yes,
No,
yes,
that's
yes,
true.
yes,
That's
that's
true.
true.
This one's
Yeah.
not
That's true.
fishy.
Well, believe it or not, in the Philippines, there will be connoisseurs. Well, of course, they don't call themselves connoisseurs, but they would actually be grading per brand of the fish sauce. They would be grading from 1 to 3 based on the level of the quality of the fish sauce they have.
Okay.
So it depends on how much it's set. Because normally when you harvest this clear amber liquid, it would be sitting on the top of the fish mass.
Right.
Those fish bones and guts and things that you're fermenting.
Yeah, right.
And this would be collected from the top bottom. But sometimes it would be located in the top. This would be collected at the top part, but sometimes it would settle, and that's when it's always sort of like deemed inferior in terms of quality. But of course, the things that we have here in Helsinki, I'm not quite sure if there would be grading for that.
Right.
But for sure, Southeast Asian people would have, you know, generally, you don't want it salty and you don't want it fishy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
Yeah.
because you can use it for, aside from dips, you can use it for marinades. So if you have chicken breast slices, which I love to do, we have a dish for that.
Yeah.
And cooked in soup, it's called tinola. It's essentially chicken and ginger soup, seasoned with fish sauce. So you marinate your chicken slices into this, and some calamansi, and it would be like the best chicken that you've tasted.
Guys, love marinating stuff.
Yes, yes, marinade. We're big fans of marinades in the Philippines, especially so we
And I love
love
it
frying
with
things.
Oh my God, can I like, Mom, if you're watching, quick shout out. I love you.
And also, to any agents, if you'd like to maybe book me for future endeavors, I'll list my number below. I am very red right now.
Yeah.
Vappu said they need more wine.
I've helped myself to some white wine, Justin, so I feel like that's what's giving me the red color.
All right, what's our next salty thing?
Yes, our next salty thing, I know this is too much for most of you to handle, but of course if you miss Filipino food and you're too lazy to go to your Asian store or look for it in your nearest market, you can always order from Walt, because we are available on Walt, Pobre and Paisano.
I love it.
Yes, I got that
Such a
thing.
good plug.
I should have an award for that, right? Like, I could probably live a life of, yeah.
And not to mention, if you go on our website, we do have the Finer Things takeaway.
Every
as well.
weekend, yes, which we just had today, and thank you so much for everybody who ordered it.
Yes.
Especially if it kind of feels like you're making your own food because you actually get to heat it yourself.
Yes.
So it's your half.
Yeah, you can actually repost it, remove the brand. I mean, of course, tag us if you want to, but you can brag about it with your friends. But anyway, yes, proceeding on. That was like it's like
perfect plug.
I'm sorry that you cannot skip the ad because it was built in. Very natural. We will build a career out of this. Okay, proceeding. Now this is the second type of fish sauce that I was mentioning about. This is a more intense version because if you go to Southeast Asian countries, you would be surprised to know that they even sell this with the fish itself inside. So it would be like a gory film of having some decaying fish bones, fish heads, and eyes looking towards you because it's deemed
So that
better.
sounds like a nightmare.
Yes.
But,
Just to clarify, so the difference between these two, this is collected from top of the fermenting fish.
Yes, this
And
one.
this contains, oh sorry, this one.
Yeah.
And this contains actual parts of the fish.
Right. So
Okay.
the reason this two actually comes from the same thing, same batch, same barrels. These are
Different
fermented,
parts.
different parts. So whenever you put you can actually try to make it at home if you have a bottle and if you have fish. Like probably when you fillet your fish, especially now that you can maybe healthy or the small fish. What do you call that in Finnish? Tilapia.
Tilapia.
You can use that as well.
Vendises.
Yes, vendises. Vendises. Such fancy
It's a hard
sounding.
word.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be Vendon?
oh, she's going French.
Yeah. So basically you mix the fish,
Well,
it's basically fish, water and salt, and it's a technical process wherein the things living inside the gut, the microbes things, ferment the thing. So when they get to ferment, it settles like this. So when you, the whole barrel of it, so the cloudy thing sets at the bottom, while the clear amber looking golden serum thing sets at the top. Well, others in some areas of the Philippines, since I was mentioning earlier, they actually grate the fish sauce. So if it sets opposite way, so like the cloudy one on top and the clear thing at the bottom, it's actually deemed inferior.
Okay.
So if you get to try, or if you get to go to Southeast Asia and see for yourself, you would see that there would be variances. Some are in the middle, but always the best qualities need to be like this. So cloudy bottom and clear top.
Okay, can we try it?
Yes, we will try it. So
should we be warned or?
You should be warned, but after this, you can actually come in closer and you can see that.
Can I sniff it as well?
Yeah. Well, you can see those white thing on the rim of the glass. Those are actually salt. Yeah.
Salt.
Yes.
Okay. Oh yeah.
I want to sniffy sniff.
Sniffy sniff.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. You know the best part of this, the greatest combo of all time is to mix a little bit.
This is heavy duty.
That's fishy.
Yes, this is fishy.
Yes.
The top layer one wasn't fishy.
Right.
This I know this was made out of fish. I
Right.
know this contains fish.
Yeah. That's true.
It's really
I
clear.
do like fish on.
No,
Like,
yeah,
but
no.
it's super fishy.
But here's the thing. Now, the second part of the tasting is add a teaspoon of that calamansi to this. This is like,
Oh, you want us to go for it?
Yeah.
yes, go for it. And mix it together and then try.
Go like this.
I don't think that's enough.
No,
Okay.
you just,
You have to mix
Oh, you
it.
want
Yeah,
us?
mix.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I see.
yes, that's enough.
Okay.
Yes. Now you can try it because it's one of those classic dips that works for vegetables
Ooh, that's
or
good.
pork. Right?
That's not fishy at
This
all
makes
anymore.
sense.
Exactly.
This makes sense.
It
Yeah.
is still fishy, but it's like fishy, like in a
Like
non
tamed down, yeah.
in your face.
In a
Like
balanced
this
That's balanced.
calamansi and fish sauce or bagoong isda. Isda is fish, so bagoong is something that's fermented because we'll be having another bagoong later on. Combination of bagoong isda and calamansi is one classic example of like Filipino flavors fused into one.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Yes.
But that is like a instant super big change.
Right, that's true.
Because it's not like before it was super fishy and now
Right.
it's like so elemental. It's like super different.
That's true, that's true. And kudos to our ancestors for doing that, for figuring that out for us, because it's such a good balance. Thank you.
We Finns appreciate it as well.
All right. What's next?
Next, I don't think you'd have to taste this because I'm sure this is more widely available in the markets. This is just your regular soy sauce, but this is the brand that's, well, there are many brands, Philippine brands out there, but this is one of the more common available in your Asian market.
Is that a Filipino brand?
This is a Filipino
okay.
brand. It's called Silver Swan. Shout out to them. Or, I don't know.
Advertising again.
Yeah,
pick
advertising.
one.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Shout out. Okay, Silver Swan. Yeah, hey. Thank you for the Silver Swan soy sauce, although we actually bought it. But yeah.
Not been sponsored in any way.
Not in any way.
We wish.
So this one, we went for the sour. Now we're going for the sweet. This one also goes well with your calamansi. As a matter of fact, many Filipino marinades, especially for beef and pork, calls for soy sauce and calamansi, and then tame it down with sugar, and then make it flavorful with garlic. But the flavor base is almost always the same.
Yeah.
It's either soy sauce and calamansi or fish sauce and calamansi. Always
Right.
marinades or dips. It's always like that.
Can I comment in between?
Yes.
There's one thing that I feel like you guys do like super well.
Yeah.
It's different sauces.
That's true.
And
I
that's
agree.
one thing also when like I speak to customers and they're like, hey, what's this sauce? I'm always like, well, it's got the exact same ingredients as that sauce, but it tastes super different, and I can't tell you why.
Yeah.
And every
that's
time
true.
I'm like, okay, so this is soy, calamansi,
Yeah.
garlic.
Yeah.
So like the normal things, maybe not added salt, but anyway. And like every time I'll be like, yeah, but this one tastes completely different to that one, and they're both super delicious.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but they do.
So it's like the same handful of ingredients,
Yes.
just switched
Yeah, that's
and
true.
rotated.
That's true. I'm not sure how to liken it to finished cooking. Like maybe it's really a matter of ratio. Like more soy, more sugar, and less calamansi, and vice versa. And definitely changes the game.
Yeah.
So moving on, still in the family of soy sauce, this is actually quite expensive in the Philippines, and it's not that common. It's more of like an Indonesian and probably Thai thing. So they call it kecap manis. So that's very Indonesian. It's not a Filipino word, but essentially this is sweet soy sauce. So I just want to show you the texture of how thick it is. It's kind of like oyster sauce or hoisin sauce. If you've had that.
Glass?
Yeah.
I'll get a glass. I'll be right back.
Yeah, of course you can buy this in smaller quantity. There are, I think, 600 ml bottles of this in your Asian market. Thank you, sweet.
Sorry, that was very awkward.
Yes, there you can see. Yeah, it's like a reduced. This by itself. Oh, if you eat rice and you put this over rice, and if you don't have, just this one and rice, you have yourself a meal. Or maybe even fried eggs.
And especially now, like during quarantine.
Exactly, because everybody's losing money.
I was just gonna say, like, nobody has very much money to spend, or like a lot of people don't.
Right.
You have rice at home, you have soy sauce at home.
Yes.
You've got yourself a dish, man.
Yes. Yeah, basically investing on condiments that we're teaching you right now. You could actually. You want to taste this one? Yes.
Spoony spoon.
Sweet.
Yoinka. As the French say.
What do you even say?
You laugh. Here's what I'm saying.
I'm laughing because I don't. Oh, okay.
Oh, it's sticky.
It's kind of like your tumasirapi, except that this is very savory and sweet.
It's
Tumasirapi.
like a mixture between like butter and soy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super good.
It's super good. Super.
Super good.
Yeah, but it's strong, but it's not overpowering.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
That's why many. I wouldn't suggest that you go for the marinade for this one, because since it contains a lot of sugar, like once you cook off your meat, it would probably burn the sugar before it caramelizes, before it sort of like browns it.
Okay, so it's more like a add-on to your dish after it's been made.
Yes, it's more of like a seasoning thing, not a marinade thing. But of course, if you can water this down with more calamansi, or maybe vinegar, or maybe a fish sauce, whatever makes you happy, go for it. Just as long as you tone down the level of sugar in this mixture, then go for it. Because you don't want to be putting things that you will be frying in this thick of syrup, because it will burn.
Yeah, that is something that I would not have thought of.
Yes.
And I would have burned the beep.
Probably today.
Oh, we are beeping things.
Yes,
Beep
yes.
how to
Yeah,
beep
beep
it.
family
yeah,
friendly, so.
yeah.
We
Okay.
should have had one more guy to just go beep every now and then.
It's gonna be probably our boss. Like, who's over there?
Yeah, this is a child-friendly test.
We have a job for you.
Yeah.
We need someone to censor what we're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, anywho.
Okay.
Yes. What are we having?
What's this?
We are having, it's fermented shrimp paste. This is one of the brands that are widely available here in Finland. I'm sure here in the Western world, this is widely available as well. But for those of you who are in the Philippines, well, I don't need to talk to you because you know this more than I do.
I don't need to talk to you.
Yeah, because then probably after this video, let me tell you something. After this, after this video, I would probably have messages from Filipino teachers and like mothers and aunties who would actually tell me like, you misrepresented what Filipino fermented shrimp is. So, and for that, well, what can I say? I know little. We're still learning a lot.
Okay.
By this. So this is fermented shrimp paste. This has been pre-sauteed. The ones that you buy in your store are already sauteed already in the bottle. Because fermented shrimp pastes are alive. I mean, it's fermenting still. So they have to stop the fermentation process, and that is by cooking and adding seasonings, which thereby preserve it further. So that's with the addition of salt, or not salt because this is already salty, but with sugar and some spices. So it may or may not contain garlic, onion, chili, and sugar. Actually, this one that we have here is actually labeled spicy. So there is definitely There are 3 variants that
I
you
was
could...
like, I have to go.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
cameraman thinks he's lying.
Yeah. I'm not lying.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah,
It was a good zoom in. We loved it.
This has actually got cane vinegar as well, probably to balance the saltiness. Dig in, please. Yes.
Oh, this is the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Shrimp paste.
Fermented shrimp paste.
Fermented shrimp paste. That is something that you guys love to put in dishes as well.
Yes.
Because
This one we know very well.
yeah.
Yes.
This
One of
is
the
a lot
yeah
in
yeah
our kitchen.
yeah one
But
of
I've
the
never
best sellers.
tasted it just like this.
Yeah.
But
I-
hold your nuts.
But it's always, oh shit. Oh, beef. I mean beef.
Oh, beef.
Family friendly
Oh, beef.
show.
No, but this one again is
no.
fairly fishy.
Great. Yeah.
You can taste the shrimp.
I don't want it anymore. Can I put it out?
Was it too fishy or too strong?
No, it's just like very strong. Like,
Yeah.
So, yeah. Because
Because when
definitely,
we have it, it's in a dish and it makes sense.
and it's in a sauce. It's more of like diluted
Yeah, it's
to
a part.
five parts
Now you're in the
of
frame, you can
water.
just smell away.
Okay.
So yeah, it comes in this thick paste, but when you get it from the markets in the Philippines, like the raw ones, the fermented ones, it would actually be more liquidy. Because
And it
that one
gets
you'll have to,
thicker.
thicker, and then
Okay.
after that ferments by itself, you'll have to saute it with garlic. Since this has already been sauteed with garlic, onions, and chili, and maybe tomatoes, this is already thick. So this one you can just drop in your soup, or maybe your sauce, or maybe add coconut cream later on, which we will introduce, which you already probably know.
And also, just to be fair, like we are tasting the ingredients like in their raw.
Raw, yeah, like
as
as
a
is.
like ingredient.
Right, that's true.
This does taste like I know for a fact super good in Katkat and Vinegar.
Yes.
But
Yeah. But now it's new in a
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
You know,
that's
it's
true.
stripped.
Yeah, new.
Yeah.
That's not beeping, right?
Weird
Okay.
word.
you're getting me
Yeah.
excited. But
Yeah.
Look at the beef guy in here.
No.
Where's the beef guy?
Yeah, they're all busy. The beef guys. So yeah,
But yeah, no, it is super good in dishes. I know that for a fact.
it is.
Yeah.
So how do you cook with that the fermented shrimp paste? Basically, you can saute with it with your vegetables. You just have to use a teaspoon or 2. If you're cooking, maybe I know you don't use pounds here, but maybe half a kilo of vegetables. A tablespoon would work pretty well
For the entire batch.
for the entire batch. So a whole bottle will
Question.
actually last you a long time. Yes.
Maybe a stupid question, I'm not sure. But like I've seen when you guys make the dishes with Pobre, you put the shrimp paste on after you cook the food,
Right.
or do you put it in whilst you're cooking?
Okay, so there are many ways of since remember that this has already been pre-cooked, pre-sauteed. So this by itself could actually be a sort of like a dipping condiment for us as well. For steamed vegetables like okra or maybe not kale, but maybe for bitter gourds or some other gourd family, or maybe even squash, steamed squash or roasted squash. This by itself would be like a nice condiment to eat with it. Or maybe saute this with your saute, yes,
I
the
knew that
word.
was gonna work.
Yeah.
I know. I've been waiting for
I've been
Pobre and
waiting.
saute this.
Saute all the
Yeah.
time. So when you saute that.
So when you saute this with some leftover rice that you've had last night, and when you're hangover, saute this with a little bit of more garlic and your leftover rice and whatever meat or protein that you have in your veg,
Just in there.
just in there, and boom, you have yourself hangover.
Very bold of you to assume that I would have shrimp when I'm hungover.
Why not?
I'm
It's
gonna
so-
go for Mickey D.
Really?
It's
It's really friendly. Don't make me explain why not.
But I
Really
will,
intense
but I will
one.
have that when I'm not hungover.
But you're true that other use this as a dip. Mix it with some calamansi again.
Yeah.
You can see that.
Once more.
Chili, or maybe some cooked off tomatoes and or just raw onions. Or cook with it, like saute with it. I would not, however, do this for a marinade because again, there are, first of all, you have to dilute it. If you want this for a marinade, you can do that, but make sure you add more liquid to it.
Okay.
Like calamansi, fish sauce. No longer fish sauce or no longer soy sauce because this by itself is salty, but you would want to balance it out with acid and sugar.
Yeah.
Have your marinade with that, but otherwise using it as pure as it is, you'd probably burn off the crust of your meat before you cook the entire thing.
Okay. Can we just do like a little break where I give you some wine?
Sure. Yes. Yes.
Alright. Have we got enough?
Okay, but can you also tell us what's our next category?
Yes.
Saunas and wine.
Advert. Skip ads. Skip ads. Skip ads. Click on the right side.
Yeah. What's next?
Next, we go to the basic aromatics of Filipino food.
Okay.
Right. That sounds
That was not for me.
very. You Dwight yourself. I remember. Yes. So yes. So now we go to the basic aromatics that you will be cooking with if you want to achieve a Filipino-inspired dish, even if you have finished ingredients. Like even with reindeer or karitsa. Karitsa is what, lamb?
Lamb.
Yes.
Lamb,
Lamb.
right,
Yeah.
yes. You can have those things. Later on we'll do this for the sauces. Okay, so you can see in your screens right now, they don't have to taste, I suppose.
I was just gonna say, am I gonna have to taste the garlic? I kind of want to.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm seeing any people.
Yeah,
So garlic?
So garlic is very basic. This is every Filipino home should have a garlic because of cooking and of course for Filipinos out there.
Witches.
For witches, because it is always said that a garlic hanging, which we actually have. We can actually show them that. Hold on, I will get.
I don't know if Bappu's watching, but
she
she knows my ghost, Eulalia. So I feel like I should have some of this garlic. Well, I do have garlic at home, obviously, because I love garlic. But I should hang that above my bed or something, because she pays me a visit way too often.
Okay, we're struggling
with the garlic, but it's fine.
It's coming. Hold on, ladies and gents back home. Garlic
is
will arrive
exciting.
soon. This is the landing
exciting.
destination.
So shout out to Keen working with us from Pobre. So he actually gave this to us during his last visit to Philippines.
Oh, that's so nice.
This is how you would normally see garlic from markets, like really nice. So this is a bundle of that. We just added some more bay leaf to it, like just for the decoration of the restaurant.
Yeah.
So it is believed in the Philippines. This is a trivia for you guys out there. Like when you hang this in your doorstep or wherever, you hang it anywhere in your home. Like in the Philippines, it could actually spell out bad spirits, just as much as fireworks of the Chinese would like shoo away evil spirits.
Yeah.
We like garlic to do that, not fireworks, but we do that as well once a year.
All right.
Yeah.
For everyone watching the cooking show, we've just been on attendance on witches and witchcraft.
Yes. Yeah.
Cooking show turned Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, that's a Blair Witch portion of this one. So going back,
Okay, next to garlic, we
so
have
garlic, onion. I just don't happen to have raw onions for you guys. So these are pickled onions, which we use a lot here in Paisano.
Those
It
are
does,
really nice.
yeah, it blooms in the acid. Like when anything that you add into acid in your pickling vinegar solution, it's just like I want to blush. They say that. I actually hear them saying that. Like I want to be more red, or I want to be more yellow.
So the food speaks to you nowadays?
I
does it?
think so.
Okay,
Well,
that's
maybe it's the quarantine thing, but
Yeah, I feel like he's very.
I will. Yes. So the combination of garlic and onion is always a must for most Filipino dishes. Then comes ginger, which you know as inkibari. So this is like the third one, inkibari.
Oh, so cute.
He
That's
says
it.
it in the cutest way. Yeah.
Inkibari.
I mean, I can't say it
Inkibari.
much better myself, but it did sound.
So I know that you guys out there drink like mash this with some honey and drink it as tea. We also do that in the Philippines, so
Yeah.
that's something we have in common with the Philippines, and that's good. I actually have a batch of this bottled. Like I grind them up in the blender and then mix it with honey and water, and just have it for my night tea. It's good for you. Well, anyway, going back to cooking, this would be the third wheel when you should take garlic and onion. More often than not, you use this when you cook with fish or chicken. So let's say we have this chicken, definitely, especially for gamey products. Like you could probably use this for reindeer as well if you have, or meat. Do you consume bear? I have to ask because I've never.
I've never had bear.
Because
I've
I've
never
met.
even heard of it, so so I'm
Really? Like bear meat or horse meat or whatever?
Horse, yeah.
Skull.
That's all.
Oh, no, we gotta do it like that. Hey. Oh.
Yes. Shout out to...
I love that he went for the Swedish word.
That was cute. So no bear.
No, but reindeer, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, let's roll with reindeer.
Yeah, but you can even actually use that, I bet. So even marinated with calamansi or vinegar or soy sauce, and then adding ginger. This is like an all-around anti-haminess thing in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So add it in a liquid or dip, or best of all is marinade or soups.
Yeah.
And then a third, another one is like these are the 4 pillars. The other one is this is in a paste form. But I'm sure you don't need an intro for this. This is tomato paste. What's tomato paste in Finnish?
Tomati.
I would say.
Was it water
No,
stuff?
but that seems. Oh no.
No.
But I was just gonna finishize it, so tomati pasta. But it's
Yeah. So it's a concentrated form of tomato. But in the Philippines, we actually use like larger ones. I just find it that it's actually more efficient to use tomato paste because it's always there, especially here in the cold region where you have to wait. I mean, of course, it's always available in the markets, but having tomato paste always in your pantry always gives you that edge for stewing something rich, because this gives that extra.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something. A classic combination in the Philippines is tomato paste. So take everything with garlic,
Okay.
onion, tomato paste, and choose. It's either soy sauce or your fish sauce. Always. Like, this is one of those uniquely Filipino taste profiles, because tomatoes, we got it from the Mexicans when we were having the galleon trade, when we were under Spanish rule. So it's a very Spanish thing to have. But then again, you have the soy from the Chinese or from Eastern Asia. And then you have the fish sauce coming in from the Southeast Asian cousins, like Thailand and Indonesia, or probably from the original Filipino settlers. So this is actually a mixing of those two worlds, like a very Western tomato paste, and then East Asian and Southeast Asian. So you pick your
but
poison,
not both of them.
but no, I do both of them,
Yeah.
but it's because I like the funkiness of the fish sauce, but the depth of the soy sauce,
Yeah.
and then I tame it with a kilo of sugar, probably.
Funkiness of fish sauce is
Yes.
a perfect way of describing fish
That's
sauce.
true, yeah.
I'd say it's quite funky.
It is.
It's like in a nice way.
Yeah, but again, these things, like the ones that we tackled, the fish sauce, the thing with the real fish inside, the soy sauce, or even the kekapmanis from Indonesia, when you cook this stuff, you actually mellow the things down.
Yeah.
So it actually becomes a canvas of flavor, like a nice umami flavor base where you can add your other stuff, like for pasta, for rice, for beans, whatever you want to have it. Because it's really a matter of making sure that you cook off the rawness of the funkiness of it.
I will excuse myself. I need to use the loo, and I'll be right back.
Sure, yep. No problem.
Subtle. Very subtle.
Very subtle.
Okay.
So we're happy with it.
Yeah,
Yes.
we can still continue. That's
Yes.
fine. We went through tomato paste. This is what really intrigues me because
Right.
I'm looking at. I'm not sure what.
Yes.
Star anise and something else.
Right, that's true. So now we go to 3 spices that are not uncommon in the Filipino pantry. So you may or may not see it in a Filipino household, but I bet you would. But I'm sure you also have this. Musta pipori whole.
Yeah.
We cook with peppercorns whole. I know that here in the West it's more of like a seasoning thing. Like we have a
And
pepper
you
milk.
grind it.
You grind it. In the Philippines, you also have the powdered stuff or pre-grounded stuff. But whenever we are stewing fish, whole,
Okay.
and then chicken and pork or beef, we almost always put it whole. This goes with soups and stews and even quick sautés.
Okay.
Yes, and that goes the same with bay leaf, lakerin-leti.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah. So since this,
I'm excited that you're speaking Finnish.
I know, I'm so proud of myself.
Yeah,
Well, that's the
eli
limit.
laakerin-lehti.
Lakerin-lehti. So in the Philippines, you'd almost always get it
Oops.
dried form. Okay, so
Yeah, this
you
is
would
really
use it for
dry.
soup and stews as well. More common with stews, like if you've met many Filipinos, you have probably tried adobo. So which is a which we will discuss later on,
Yeah.
like the classic Filipino icon dishes of all time, all time.
Yeah.
And then you have star anise, which you would normally associate with East Asian cooking, particularly Chinese cuisine. There are areas in the Philippines which has, you want to spell that? There are areas in the Philippines that very fragrant. There are areas in the Philippines that use a lot of these for their pork stews because there were original Chinese settlers in those particular area. But if you ask me which are more common, it would probably be black pepper and lakirin.
Okay.
And then chilies. Chili. Well, Kat was mentioning earlier that in the Philippines it's not as fiery as Thai food, and that is true. That is true.
Yeah.
But we actually have an area in the middle of the Philippines where they love chili on all their dishes, alongside with some coconut milk. But is it true for all Filipinos? Not necessarily, but we like chilies nonetheless because we have this variety of the chili, the green ones. I'm quite sure you can find those during the summer months here in Finland as well. You just grill it over fire or maybe use it to saute. It gives this herby chiliness to dishes, which we normally use for soups and stews. So, but is it as fiery as the other Southeast Asian cousins? No, not really.
But isn't there still the whole thing about preference? And if you want to.
Do you dare yourself? No. I don't want to put you at risk, but if you want.
Is it strong chili or?
It's the one that we use for almoredo.
Is it what you use for almoredo?
Why don't we just have almonds?
I mean, I've never had almoredo, so I wouldn't know.
Tasting. Yeah, we never had. Wait.
Are we daring me to do it? Is this a challenge?
No, this is not a challenge.
This is not a
Why would they
challenge.
challenge me? I just want some excitement in my life.
Okay, Kat, I challenge
I've
you.
been social distancing for like a month and a half.
So you can
Let
try.
me have lived my life.
This doesn't have the seed.
That doesn't have the seed. That's not gonna be strong.
I know, that's why I tried.
I won't have the seed. I'm a bad girl.
It reminds me of paprika.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is
that's
well.
what
This
it
is
is, essentially.
this is suomesta.
But I don't know. That's the seed. Like, but I don't know if everybody knows. But the part of the chili that's the spicy part is actually the seed. It's not the actual fruit.
That's actually good to discuss. I sort of like assume that people know that. Yeah.
But you haven't seen this, honey.
I'll pick this one.
You're getting annoyed.
Okay.
I would never on camera.
Grab a booth.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
They were just discussing about like giving an intro of like what's the spicy part. Well, I'm sure many of you do already know that the spiciest part of the chili are like the seeds and the white part because that's where
Oh, that's wrong.
the chemical thingy that's where it's concentrated. So people who don't like it very spicy actually do remove the seeds. I do that because I don't want my, I don't want to be pooping all around because it's too spicy. So I always deseed it. Yeah, better tame that gut.
Stomach friendly.
Yeah, stomach
It
friendly.
burns when it goes in, and it burns when it.
Especially when you're traveling. But I must say that the central region of the Philippines who love doing that, including their seeds and all, tame it with something else, which I will be introducing to you later on.
Okay,
After
yeah,
this.
exciting.
Yes,
All
so
right.
that's exciting.
So what's next?
Next, this is quite uncommon for many Filipino households. So this is kafir lime leaf.
Ah.
So there are areas in the Philippines, particularly in the southern area, which are nearer to Indonesia.
Yeah.
The Malay cousins, they use this along with lemon. I don't have lemongrass today, but I'm sure you know that it's citruna rojo. Am I correct? Yes. They use it to cook and to make their dishes more fragrant in the southern part. But up in the northern, especially in the capital area, the kaffir lime leaves and lemongrass are not always part of the pantry items. but it's always good to have, I must say.
All right.
All right, cool. So, did you know that we actually have...
Advertisement!
Yes. We actually do have two kinds of chili sauces here in Paisano and Pobre and Campi. We have the very well loved chili garlic oil.
Die for.
Yes, chili garlic oil. Yes. The
I
name.
asked Ralph one day from Pobre, he's
Yeah.
the head chef in Pobre,
Yeah.
if he will teach me how to make this. And he was just like,
Right.
go downstairs, grab yourself some, take it home. And I was
Yeah,
like,
because it's such a
that's not what
tedious
I
process.
meant, but yes,
Right.
that is. I
You know
love
what?
it, so I will.
Actually, based on your comments,
Yeah.
if we could actually make a batch of this chili garlic oil for the next episode of this, if there will be any other episode. So that you can make it yourself at home. Well, if not, you can always order from us through Walt. Shout out to Walt.
Yes. My laugh is so loud.
yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Do we actually have open ones like this? We could actually. Do you want to try the chili garlic?
I mean, it will be open soon if you want it to be.
Okay.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can.
Okay, let's just open this. And then this one, this is the grilled version of it. So it's a close cousin of the sriracha from Southeast Asia. So it's basically blended chili with some aromatics, which has been fermented, and that the fermentation part makes it a little bit more kicky, if I may say so. Yes, you can say so. You can zoom it first, direct.
This one is definitely gonna make you smell a little bit garlicky.
Right, that's true. So it's not for a date, I would say.
Yeah.
People say that.
Unless you both eat it.
Right, that's true.
But I mean, the actual ingredients aren't really crazy.
No,
About
no,
it.
no, no,
It's
no,
really
no.
simply
No,
made.
yeah.
Can you say what's in the alma?
So basically, this is just your red chilies that we tried earlier, blended in with some aromatics like lemongrass and fresh lime leaves and whatnot. Well, this one, since this is oil-based, you actually saute some garlic and two kinds of chili with it, and then you cook it for a long time. So this is something that you would want to invest some time in. But then again, if you're going to be making a batch of this, like a kilo of chili and a kilo of garlic, then that could last you for a whole month. Unless, of course, you only have that and rice for meal.
It's spicy.
It's exactly
too
as
spicy?
the name suggests.
If I turn red, it's not the wine, it's the chili.
Right.
What's in it?
No, I'm good. I've had enough.
No, it's like
But it's super good on food. Like, seriously, we put this on everything that we eat when we're at work.
for sure.
And almorena, I'm gonna be super controversial.
Why?
Because I think almorena on pizza is to die for.
Really?
I love it.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
true.
I can see how that would be.
I normally go for sriracha on like pizza, but I put almorena on one time, and after that my life
Yeah.
changed. So,
I
is this?
I don't know why.
Yeah. So Dwight,
Yes, I'm
What's
expecting some
our-
sugar. Okay. Anyway.
what's up? Yes,
Right, is
I
it?
think there's a secret popcorn factory
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah, I can smell that too.
I'm pretty sure that they've stolen the popcorn that we had, and
Yeah, we had
I'm a little bit
popcorn
angry about
earlier.
that.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
We're the ones doing the hard work, and they're the ones stealing the food from us.
All right.
Okay. Next. This will be coming off as a surprise for many, but in the Philippines, since we have been under Spanish rule for quite some time, there are dishes that are actually focused with Spanish-inspired dishes like paella.
Thank you for
Or
bringing the
like-
popcorn back.
Ooh, we have popcorn, yes, great. So it's not uncommon to have some smoked paprika in your kitchen as well. Is that correct?
good. Whoever made that did not go to the
Don't. Okay, I feel like we're going on a tangent. Please stay on paprika.
Yeah. Yes, let's stay on paprika, not on popcorn. So paprika, not popcorn. So it's not uncommon to have paprika, I was about to say popcorn, in your pantry items, but this should be, I would say, something that's usually called for in special celebrations because since the Spanish elites are sort of like the rich people in the Philippines, they sort of like have their dishes be the standards for being elite. So that's
Okay.
why the dishes that would call for tomato paste, which you saw earlier, or rosemary, whatever, and paprika would almost always be associated with parties and celebrations and bridge.
Oh, so it's more like a...
So it's not an everyday thing. It would be like a Christmas thing, a graduation thing, those kind of things.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's really something good to know. So if a Filipino presents you a dish that has tomato and a smoky paprika to it, it's probably that he or she wants to impress you because it's more of like a
I
celebratory
was
dish.
just gonna say, so basically what you're saying is if a Filipino man gives me paprika, he is trying to impress me.
We can say that, yes. Although maybe not.
And then I'm like, he is into me.
Okay. Next, peanut butter. Peanut paste, other places call it. Well, I don't think you need to taste this one. Yeah, so basically here in the West, you usually do this with peanut butter and jelly thingy going on, which we actually have. That's very American, but actually we have that on our week's cookie, which is like I'm promoting the finer takeaway. It's like two sides of peanut butter cookies, sandwiching a jam and cream cheese filling, which is like absurdly good.
Does it have coconut by any chance?
No.
Okay.
We reserve the coconut for last, and you'll be tasting.
Dwight's the coconut queen.
Yeah, but the peanut butter cookies are really good. I had
Really
like
good.
8 this week.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, I came to visit and
8 is a lot.
And after that, she hasn't been
It
wearing
wasn't
jeans.
Yeah.
It was like
So
one.
where do we use peanut butter? We use it for stews. So it's very common to see this on beef, pork, not chicken, but maybe seafood stews as well, combined with coconut cream, which you will meet later on.
Yeah.
So we have this one of the national iconic dishes as well for the Philippines.
3, 2, 1.
Got it. Yes, everybody knows that because it's so much easy to pronounce and far more easier to remember because it's just 2 words that you have to repeat. Got it. So it's essentially a stew of meat with vegetables seasoned, or rather stewed with peanut butter, some coconut milk, of course the broth from or the stock from your meat, and then thickened with some rice powder. So this is one of the. It is traditionally it's since it's saucy, it's thick,
Super rich.
it's
super
very
rich.
that and that.
That's the rice powder?
Yeah, the rice powder makes it be so. And in a traditional sense, those are almost always made like as bland, not bland, but I would say not as perfectly seasoned. And that's perfectly normal. Why? Because almost always it's mandatory to serve it with fermented.
Yes. That makes sense.
So
That makes sense.
yeah, so the saltiness, the funkiness, you get it from here, but the bland baseness of it and the richness from the stock and the broth from the meat, you get it from the peanut butter plus the stock and the meat, whatever.
That's one of those dishes, like if you look at it and it looks like a little bit small, you're like, oh.
Again, because especially in the Philippines, if you're in the Philippines watching us right now, which I don't think so because it would be 12 midnight, but just in case you're watching, watch out for the sugar content and the crunchy bits. If you like it, go for it. I go for the smooth one as possible. We like it smooth. And then just make sure it's not as sweet as you would as for a spread.
Yeah.
Because we don't want it too sweet.
Yeah.
We just want it to. Right. Should we move on? Ladies?
Yes, we should. I just wanted to try a leaf.
Yes,
Right.
can you?
I will get to that. Okay, I will get to this later.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. So just a quick note, there will be some dishes, East Asian inspired, that would call for sesame oil. That's totally it. The sesame oil per se is not very Filipino in nature.
Okay.
But since we use it on some dishes, especially for pancit, which is the stir-fried noodle dish of the Philippines, which has a gazillion of varieties.
And if it's your birthday, you'll be having
Always,
pancit.
always, always,
Yes,
always
It celebrates long life.
That's true. So soy sauce or ketchup man is the sweet soy version. Sauteed with some onion, garlic. You can add ginger if you want. I don't like it in my pancit. And then your preferred meat, chicken, pork. Not that I like pork.
Noodles.
I like it plenty of vegetables. So basically, you can maybe we can do a video of that. But it basically will call for pancit is good. You can have it vegan. Well, yeah, because there are different versions of pancit. But yeah. But the classic ones are made with egg noodles. So the noodles itself are like enriched with egg, and then you saute it with oyster sauce, and you season it with some shrimp broth or pork broth or whatever, and then add tons of vegetables to
But
it.
of course it can be made vegan as well.
Definitely, because all islands and even all households have their own version and ratios and stuff, and this could be added to that.
Yeah.
But is it in all Filipino pantry? Maybe not, but it's always good to have.
Just like side note on sesame oil.
Yeah.
I've made the mistake. It needs so little sesame oil.
True.
Like basically just like 2 drops.
And
you're fine.
that's true. And don't make the mistake of like frying your eggs in sesame oil first. Sesame oil is so much more expensive than your regular rapeseed oil here in Finland, or vegetable oil in the Southeast Asian region. So you'll be wasting too much oil if you're going to be doing that for a deep frying. Unless of course you want to impress someone and have it like a sesame inspired dish, but I don't know if anybody already did that.
I shouldn't have anyone to impress. So.
Right? That's true.
Sorry, I shouldn't have
So
allowed
it's really something.
Sorry.
It's really something that you would use extra. Like if you're in the West, think of something that you would use extra virgin oil, extra virgin olive oil.
I am extra virgin.
Right. Like, so something that you would use for that. So something that you would use for finishing and not for cooking, not for sauteing, because otherwise you might have the tendency to cook off the aromatic oils that it's in sesame oil. So you consume it like in the raw stage.
Yeah.
Yes. Next, zoom in, cameraman, please. So this is annatto seeds. Again, our Mexican friends will be having this very familiar with us. Like, ooh, what? Annatto seeds with Filipino food? Yes, we have it. He gave it to us, and we embraced it. So
I'm having popcorn. I'm sorry.
yeah, we can have it here. Sure.
I just stole it.
So this is an oil version of it. It's essentially mixing a part of this seeds and heating it over low flame, not high, in your stove top for about 5 to 15 minutes. As soon as it has this color. So does it have flavor per se? No. No, it does not have.
And this is what we have in the not so plain rice if you've been to Pobre.
Right.
And customers always ask me like, what is an natto? And I'm like, that's the color.
Right. It's really the color.
It tastes a lot like seaweed.
No.
The XO rice because it's based from seaweed.
Yeah.
What I mean, like,
the rice, but I mean not the actual oil.
Yeah, but yeah, the XO.
Yeah. So the annatto oil. So just to be clear, you don't add this directly to dishes. Consume this directly, and you'll be like stinging it out directly, because it's
the
seeds because it's somewhat bitter.
Okay.
Oh, I don't like that.
And pungent. So make an oil for yourself, and this oil could last you for several months, unless of course you gulp down some oil during your free time, especially in this
wine, have some oil.
Right. Yeah.
The moment.
Moment
The
of.
leaf.
Yes.
That's what we've been trying to figure out.
So you usually just saute with. So just to be clear, don't consume the annatto seeds. Cook with annatto oil. Saute your garlic, onion, ginger, and tomatoes with it, whatever, whatnot, and it gives your dish this pleasant blush. Otherwise, there's not really much flavor to it. Okay. Now leaf and popcorn.
Oh.
All the letters.
Oh no.
No more.
Oh, it's a huge one.
Yep.
Is this a banana leaf?
And this is a banana leaf. So
Look at how educated I am.
how I wish I could show you like a real fresh version of this. Unfortunately, here in the western cold regions, you can only buy banana leaves that are in frozen form. So this is a frozen banana leaf.
Yeah.
But otherwise, if you get it here in Finland, frozen, just throw it out overnight and then rinse it. Does
Or is
it?
Wait, no, is that something else? No, it smells like seaweed.
So rinse it, yeah, a little, I would say.
Yeah, okay.
So rinse it with water, make sure you pat it dry, and then this is a very good technique that I learned from, I don't know whom I learned it from, but all the Filipinos do it. So basically, if you have a torch at home, which you probably wouldn't, I don't. So what I did was to put it on top of the induction cooker, which somebody actually messaged me that it's such a dangerous thing to do.
That sounds a little.
It is.
dangerous.
It is.
Try it at home, please.
Don't try it at home.
Yeah.
I did set my alarm off, but hey, it's
But hey,
it's not
but
every
hey, don't do this at home.
yeah, but if you can definitely do it at home, but do not do it unless you want to run off to your alarm thing, because once you set this on fire,
It ain't gonna stop.
it actually won't catch fire because
Okay.
the banana leaf is
Opposite to what I
actually
said.
it's very much rich in water.
Okay.
So once you do that, you put it over fire that way or whatever.
What you mean
By
to like to?
Yeah, because what it does is that it serves two purpose. One, once you put it on flame or any heat source, it releases oils. So that oil thereby makes it more pliable. And also the oil actually activates sort of like, it's somewhat antibacterial. That's why in the Philippines there would be many dishes that are covered with banana leaves, because those are initially sought for travel. Yes, question.
When I went to it's not a question, it's a
Yeah.
comment, I'm sorry.
Comment.
But when I was in the Philippines, when I was in Cebu,
Yeah.
and we met some Filipino people and we ended up hanging out with them.
Yeah.
And we had rice in like banana leaves that
Yes.
we wrapped around it and like then it hung down. It was kind of like barbecued.
Oh yes.
And then we went down like
Yes.
to a picnic. We took it with us to like a waterfall, and then you could have the banana leaf as a plate, and then you could put like
Yes,
other stuff
yes.
on it, like with the rice.
Yeah.
And then we like learned how to do the eating with your
Hands,
fingers.
yes. There's an art to that, which we'll probably learn some other time, because we only have popcorn.
And no eating with fingers during Corona.
Yes. Thank you, Kat.
You're welcome.
Wonderful advisory.
Thank you.
So, but what she mentioned was what she mentioned was actually very true. That in the Philippines, these are used to wrap food up, especially rice, because one, it's good for travel. Another one, it keeps longer because it's antibacterial once you activate the oil from the banana leaf. So use this straight from the fridge. It won't do much. It probably will spoil faster, but throw it properly. One, rinse it with clean water and put it over flame. Or if you don't have, I don't know what you can do, but maybe in the oven would work as well, 150, or maybe lighter if you know. Or maybe ironing. Thank you, Jake. Maybe you could iron it.
That's wild.
That's true. And then so as long as you activate the oils from the banana leaves, it gets to be more pliable, so you can wrap food inside it. And then the whole thing, once you've wrapped it, you either steam it or roast it. So in the Philippines, it's very much common to roast fish inside over open flame, or rice, especially for the dessert, which we will go through later on. Steam this over like live flame for a couple of hours, and then you will have yourself a nice rice dessert.
Alright.
So, but just to be clear, you don't eat it with the dish. So don't go cutting your fish grilled with the banana leaf and al dente. It's not like that. No. You do not eat the banana leaf. You are there for. It's like aluminum foil, but bio. Ooh la la. So you can throw it in a bio bag, and you can store food in it, and it stays
This
longer.
is like an eco way of making food.
That's true, and our ancestors, not just Filipinos, but many have figured it out. Smart of them. Okay. Okay, so now we go to the sweet part of things. We should be.
And he's not talking about me, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, no.
Okay. One more?
Yes. All right. So we talk about Filipino salty, sweet. Well, sweet basically comes from brown or white sugar, and then sour things, so vinegar and acid. So from fruits, there are tons of fruits out there that we use for souring. We just cannot source it out from here in Helsinki. But of course, leave us a comment if you want to see it, or let us know what you think about the other Filipino dishes that could be used. I've used tyrni, sibak.
Yeah?
Tyrni, I've used it in sinigang. I like it for fish, but not so much for pork.
Yeah, this
So
is super sour.
it's very, yeah. So basically, there are things here in the Finnish landscape that would actually work well with some dishes, as long as you have the acid, you can use it for marinade. So that's a good tip. Tyrni is nice, even for marinade. Just make sure to use not so much.
Okay.
So, Filipino sweets.
And you are the
Yeah.
coconut queen.
So most of the Filipino sweets use coconut cream. Of course, in the pop culture, in the modern times, the cakes and all these French pastries are very much like booming in the Philippines.
All right.
But traditional ones in the Philippines are almost always based with coconut cream or milk. So what's the difference between cream and milk? Yes, you were asking.
I'm gonna go for a side comment for somebody like me that struggles with dairy products.
Yeah,
Filipino cuisine is awesome because you use so much coconut milk,
that's true.
Yeah, that's
but it's not
fair.
actual dairy.
Right.
So I can eat basically anything you said.
Yes. And it actually serves two purposes. You can use it for savory or sweet, either or.
Yeah, it works both.
Yeah, it's kind of like cream, except that it's more
It's just
aromatic.
sweeter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's
And
true.
also it makes making your cuisine vegan so much easier as well.
That is true. That's why.
So it's not actually that hard to make any of your cuisine
Correct.
into a vegan dish.
That's true.
No.
That's very true. So coconut. This one is what we have is it's a more popular coconut cream brand, coconut cream and milk. So what's the difference? So if a recipe calls for coconut milk or a coconut cream, can you interchange it for liquid, for stewing, and for soups? Yes, you can. The only difference is that when you cook with coconut cream, you basically have more fat in it. So you're talking about 20 to 25% fat versus that of coconut milk, which ranges from 10 to 17. Maybe, I'm not a
I did
scientist,
not know that.
but
You sound
I'm not a scientist.
basically coconut cream has more fat. If you buy this in your Asian store here in Helsinki,
I am down for
Yeah.
that.
you would almost always recognize the white packaging if you're talking about this particular brand. The coconut milk will be on the green box like this. But of course, if you're not very near with your Asian markets, I think Comarket, Alepa, and Espoo, there are
They
just
have it
in cans. Yeah.
Yeah.
One note with that though, it's almost always best to buy coconut milk or coconut products coming in from Southeast Asia or Asia in general,
Yeah.
particularly with Sri Lanka or Thailand, because what I've been comparing a lot, like I really have been comparing a lot for home usage.
He's very bored.
I'm very the quarantine did that. Basically, coconut products that are made here in the West would almost always have coconut cutale, so it would be coconut slices
Right, and then plus the...
plus water and stabilizer. And I suppose that would also be true if you're in the United States.
Yeah.
However, in contrast, those coconut products that are made in the East, Thailand, Sri Lanka, or Philippines, would almost always be just about coconut milk.
Yeah.
And then maybe extended with some water.
Yeah.
The thing is that when you cook with this thing and you reduce it for a jam later on, which they will taste, if you have stabilizers on it, it would almost always tend to be gluey. And I don't think you want that. I don't like that. It would be like, I don't know, it's like
I
slimy
want to say
thing.
something so inappropriate, but I'm trying my best
Yes,
not to do it.
but
I'm just
do not,
thinking,
yeah. So it's almost always, the bottom line of this is that almost always buy, if you can, buy from your Asian store or buy items that does not have a stabilizer on it because it's so much better for cooking. Unless you want your food to be gluey, like a curry gluey, which we don't. Yes.
Okay.
Stretch.
Are we going jam?
Yeah.
Yes,
Not yet. Okay.
Yeah, sure, we can. So, this is really pathetic looking.
Story of my life.
So this is called pandan leaves. You want to smell that? Well, it smells like freezer.
It smells like freezer.
It smells like freezer.
No, it doesn't. It smells a bit like.
Yeah.
It smells a bit seaweedy as well.
Yeah.
Everything smells like seaweed too.
Yeah. I haven't been in the sea for a while.
So if the West have vanilla, the Philippines and other Southeast Asian countries have pandan leaf. So this is like a very aromatic, which in the Philippines at least almost always exclusively used for desserts, partnered with coconut cream and then sugar.
What does it taste like?
It doesn't per se, like blending it with water per se, it would actually be a little bit bitter.
Okay.
So we actually go for the aroma of this one more. So the whole bunch, you actually put it in water with sugar, then you make syrup out of it. So it's really more of that thing.
Is it more like of a consistency than
It's more of like a flavor, aroma flavor. So as you would vanilla. So you like pastry stuff like with the scent of vanilla. And vanilla. And then in the Southeast Asia, it's almost always the scent of the, there's police.
Oh.
Oops. Okay.
Bonnie.
Oh, there's you.
They didn't see me. I'm safe.
I'm sure we're safe.
Yeah, and then this one you would go for just for fragrance. So pandan leaf, so you don't consume it as is. If you do, if you blend it with your coconut milk or cream, make sure to strain it out because it's essentially in texture just leaf.
Okay. So we don't want to taste it.
You don't want to taste that as is, yes.
Okay.
Next is ube. I'm quite sure that many of you have heard about ube and
Never heard about ube before I met you guys.
right, yeah.
Same.
Same?
It's
Right.
very exotic.
Right. It's a variety of yam. So what we're having today, having a taste for today, is actually a variety that has been cooked with some sugar. And let me check for some milk. No, it's just the yam and the sugar and some water. So what they did was to cook it off because you would, like you would a batati, like sweet potato, except that it's brightly purple hued.
So it's kind of like a root vegetable.
It is, yes. In the Philippines though, it is quite uncommon to consume it savory.
Oh, okay.
So it's almost exclusive. When you say ube, it would almost always call for ube jam. So which has been the root crop that has been boiled or roasted, then cooked long over open fire with some sugar, some milk, some butter, etc., etc. And then you get this.
Yeah.
Although not quite like this because this is like the commercial thing. But you can try this one.
But it can be used in savory dishes as well, right?
The ube per se, the root crop per se, yes, but the ones in the bottles that you will see in your Asian stores do not because those has tons of sugar in it.
Okay.
So you don't want to sweeten your things up. But if you can have ube per se with you, use it as you would patati or sweet potato for those of you English speakers. Yeah.
It is like,
Sweet, but not overly.
no, it's like super tame in flavor.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
definitely.
it's definitely
not
more
too
sweet
much.
than-
Yeah.
And it does remind you of a root vegetable, but
Right.
like more like a dessert version of it. I don't know how to explain it. It's very good, but in a very
Very
strange
good.
way.
Yeah.
It's weird good.
We're good, that's
Yeah.
good. Many Filipinos all around the world do desserts with ube.
Ube.
Yeah, it's like their favorite thing to do. Like
Like halo halo.
halo. If you haven't had that, you should when you go visit Philippines. It's one of those quintessentially Filipino dishes to have, especially during the summer months. So ube, it's essentially more for color. It's very vibrant looking.
Yeah.
So always sought after. Now we go to the sugary stuff. I mean, those are sweet, of course. But now we go for the sugars that you would want to use when you're making dessert. Or maybe you can try it also for savory as well. So this is palm sugar.
So there are.
It looks like an egg yolk.
I know this is somewhat golden, but it's not uncommon to see palm sugar like this, or maybe even this big, coloring like this. So this is Muscovado sugar that you can buy directly from your stores.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So this is actually, it's not that we prefer the brand, but this is the Muscovado sugar that's widely available in your nearest market. You can use this instead of that, or I find this that the tuma serape that you can buy, the danzuka, tuma serape, you can also use that. Except that, of course, for recipes calling for palm sugar, you will just have to adjust the amount of liquid.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Would you like to try this too?
I feel like it's sugar. I feel like that's fine.
Yeah.
Right, it's sugar, it's fine.
Yeah. I
So
don't need to dig in.
the only difference is that the darker it gets, the more molasses it has in terms of molasses. So it's like the raw flavor of the sugar. It's deeper. So it's like eating white sugar and extremely dark brown sugar. It's got more complexity in it.
Okay, yeah. First time deep of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So this we are doing. We already did a couple of days back. So this
we
is
talked
basically
about it.
coconut jam. So this is
Yes.
like the final thing that you'll be tasting today. So this
I'm
is
excited.
essentially this one flavored with pandan leaf and then sweetened with and reduced with the muscovado sugar or the palm sugar, whichever you have, or even if it's tuma serape. So just reduce it down until you have the consistency that you want. In this case, we want a jammy consistency. So you can try this.
Can we dig in?
Yes, please.
Oh, it's thick, and it looks like
Because
chocolate.
it's
It looks like
cold.
chocolate mousse.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like chocolate.
It's kind of like a ganache thing going on.
It's coconut. Yeah.
This is super freaking good.
Super, super.
This is good.
So you would eat this with a bread, with, well, we eat it with steamed rice. It's sort of like a sticky rice, so like a dessert. We eat it with all kinds of sweets.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
That was good.
That was super
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I think that was the last one that we had to
I
try.
think so.
Yeah.
How did it go for you guys?
Oh, it was super good.
Was it?
I love tasting
It was
stuff.
pretty exciting. Even though like we've worked with you
Yeah.
for quite a while, I think it was like now we're really getting to the basics.
Right. Yes. Yes.
The
And this is
basics
the
and
start
how
of it.
it's
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because one thing that I do, like I said before with like the sauces that you guys make, I know the ingredients that you put into them,
Right.
but I still don't like just how you make them all taste so different with like the different ratios.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
like what
that's true.
interests me.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
So that's something that I love to learn myself.
Yes.
This is all stuff that I'd love to do at home.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's really good to
That's
hear.
good.
Yeah.
So
probably next time, if we get to have it next time, we will be showing you how to cook the basic, quintessentially iconic Filipino dishes. But for now, thank you for joining us in this
Yeah.
Vappu
Do you want to
Lockdown
say
Food
bye?
Festival.
Yeah.
Oh,
How
yeah. So
long
here's
was
our
it?
director
What time is it
camera.
now?
Yeah, this is.
This is odd.
This is
our
odd.
director.
We went
Hi.
on for 2 hours.
Did we?
Oh yeah, I was fully aware of that.
I was like,
We had a timeline
yeah.
of 30. But
So
it's
guys,
fine.
our
I
episodes
don't
What time is it?
long.
What time is
It's
it?
8 o'clock.
It's 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just 45 minutes. We said like it's gonna be like 30 minutes. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, anyway, thanks everybody for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Let us know in the comments below. I know this is on FB. I don't have FB.
Let us know in
In
the
the comments below what you
You're
want to see next.
famous.
Yeah, no, I'm not famous. But let us know in the comments if you want to see another video series from Paisano.
And let us know in the comments if you want me and Iro back.
Or maybe
Wow,
even
that was
me, or if you
That
want to
was a
change
good
those.
guess.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a great Vappu evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Yeah.